So this is where we dropped in from earlier today. I mean, we literally hit the water right there, and we're dealing with rapids right there. So, I mean, those are small. Yeah, it was a quick start. So I thought this was a good place to do this video from. It's a lot of thoughts, so got to organize them. Sorry. First of all, I've never wished I had bought a GoPro more than I have today. When I was in Paso Robles, Jarrett said he had the gear for a GoPro 4, but he didn't know where it was. And I was like, don't stress about it because I don't have one. And I don't know if the budget allows me to go out and buy one. And in hindsight, yeah, should have listened. Should have listened to myself. Should have listened to the universe. Should have bought a GoPro that day, because then I'd have it with me. By the way, look at that. Then I would have had it with me today. Couldn't take my phone because it's not waterproof. So I bought the picture package that they take from the shore. And so all the footage I'm taking is a good reminder, but I don't have first-person documentary footage of me on the river. Good news is this is seasonal. Apparently this river, the level of water in it and the rate it's flowing at is an unusual season, and it's once in a blue moon that it's this good. Those are the guide's words. And at the end of the season in May, they go back to Colorado and they run river rafting on another river. So I got information on the river that they run in Colorado, and so I anticipate that I will buy a GoPro between then and now so that I can have some first-person river rafting footage. Rapids here ran today between Class 1 and Class 3. They said some bordered on Class 4. I don't know if I believe that, because I know they're making it look good for the tourists. Yeah, it was totally meant to do today. There's no piece of it that I regret. A couple bits. When we were walking to here, people joked that it was like the beginning of a horror movie because there were like 25 of us dressed in wetsuits, and it was hot. Once you hit the water, it gets a lot cooler. Water's around 50 degrees. We're all wearing ourselves out. Somebody was joking that they could wipe us out once we had reached our destination and we're suitably tired. And I was like, yeah, anything could be the beginning of a horror movie. So there's a bit in there. That's just to remind myself what it was. I came up with the idea of corporate sponsorship in comedy, because I know I will throw out Salt River Rafting Company as sponsors of this bit, and the guys that operate in Colorado as sponsors of that bit, and there's a bit in that. So if you see one of my stage pieces incorporate that idea, came up today. And then we were on the river, and guide had told us that he was afraid of big cats, and we talked about rattlesnakes, and there's a whole bunch of jokes about our own mortality on the river. It's weird, because I don't think in many other situations in life you joke about the fact that you could die if you make too many mistakes. I mean, you don't ask the pilot of the airplane to tell us about the various ways the plane could go down while you're in midair. So we were talking about snakes and big cats, and the two of us in front. I mean, I was one of the two guys in front, and I basically got volunteered to do it. And we talked about those of us in front being the human shield, and then we were up front, so we would take the big waves in the face, and whether that meant the guy didn't like us or not. But then the guide asked us, so is anybody afraid of anything? And I went, dying alone. And the entire boat went, aww. And the guy behind me patted me on the shoulder. His name is Rod, which was interesting. And he went, I don't think there's much fear of that happening today, son. He didn't say son, I'm adding that for comedic effect. But It was a joke. But it was a neat bit. I might keep that. I wanted to do a second piece on anxiety, and there may be more than two, I don't know, for a couple of reasons. One of them was there were things I didn't say that I meant to say in the first video. And the second one is I got a lot of responses to that video for its openness and its vulnerability, and people thanking me for being willing to talk about it. I'm not doing it for that reason, to encourage more response. But if it helped anybody, that's a reason to go further and talk more about it and talk about what I did in order to cope with it and how I cope with it and how it still plagues me and what it is I'm dealing with on this trip. So I realized that I cut the Survivor story off with a joke about coming for Jeff Probst before I made the point, before I connected it all. And the point of that was those two gentlemen, Mick and Paul, they made the only argument that would have gotten me to eat that octopus. I had told my friend, yeah, I'm not eating that. You can't peer pressure me into that because you can't. I don't care what your opinion of me is. And I think that goes back to high school. No, it goes back to junior high, actually. I learned that from a couple people who are still my friends. Probably name-checked them or tagged them in the video. Yeah, two of the coolest people I've ever known I knew in junior high, and they're both still pretty cool, and one male, one female, so there are people left out of that equation. I apologize to them if they thought that was talking about them, but yeah. I carried that perception of cool into high school, and I didn't really care what anybody else's opinion was. And I think I'm still largely to that extent, and I find it creeping in, and so I have to do some battle with it. So when I say I get anxiety before I perform, if I believe the show is important, and I create false importance out of shows for myself to take me out of my game, because I know if it's a room I know and I'm comfortable with, and I know I'm comfortable with the material that I'm doing, or I'm comfortable with the fact that I don't have material, but at least I know the structure that I'm working in, those are all security that relax me, and I don't have anxiety. So if you've ever seen me do really ridiculous stuff, particularly in a Bakersfield theater, even in front of especially in front of a small audience, it's because there's no stakes to it, and it's freeing. And I'm trying to move that mindset over to other contexts, and I'm not sure that's the way to do it. Whenever a friend of mine deals with significant anxiety, I usually ask them to go worst case scenario. I ask them, what's the worst that could happen? And then now that you've imagined that, what's the likelihood that that's going to happen? And how bad is that really? So, in dealing with anxiety over this, I go, what's the worst that could happen? And of course, the worst that could happen is I'm going to die. I'm going to fall out of the boat and bash my head on a rock underwater and go unconscious and drown before anybody can pull me into the boat. What's the likelihood of that happening? There's no likelihood of that happening. And you can prove that to yourself because you can look around at everybody else is going on that rafting trip, and there are people of all demographics and all ages, and they run these trips for everybody. I'm a 6'5", 300-pound man. I'm reasonably strong and fairly intimidating in a lot of cases, and I think I have less to fear from the river than most people do. So the likelihood that I'm going to die in this context is really low. And so when you remind yourself rationally, yeah, that's a terrible possibility, but the likelihood of it happening just isn't there, that helps. And now that I've done this, I stood at the end waiting for the ride back to camp and looked at the vistas, and I went, what's the worst that could happen in a room full of people that don't know me, who I'll probably never see again, using a skill set I've developed over the last 30 years, cracking jokes, being stupid. It's a different context and there's more expectations, but I looked back at the stand-up I did about 7 years ago, and it includes the Dora bit and the roll sheet bit, and I liked the way I did it back then better. And the difference was I was fearless. I mean, I know I wasn't. I know how stressed out I was before I got on stage that night, but it wasn't what I deal with these days, and it isn't the same kind of stress over craftsmanship. I had more fun. I was more playful. I rolled with, I mean, Who's on First is largely improvised, if you didn't know. There are certain beats in it that Abbott and Costello knew they were going to hit. Like, they knew the Naturally bit was a waypoint. And there are a few of those in the piece that they knew this is where we are in the piece, where they were able, where they were able to orient themselves to know how far into the bit they were. But between those connect the dots, the story is that it was largely improvised. So they never knew how it was going to go on a night-to-night basis. And so it was different every time. And that's what I need. And that's what I saw in that video 7 years ago. Knowing where the waypoints are to hit, but knowing how to riff and play around it. And Chris Williams has been trying to get me to get there for a couple of months now, because he's more interested in coming to see me play when I riff than when I have scripted material. And Kayleen's been saying, I like the ones where you're flowing and riffing better than the ones where you've scripted out every word. And that's the key. Having enough connect the dots to be able to riff between them. That's my style. In 2006, I dated too much because I didn't want to be alone, I didn't want to focus on myself, and I didn't want to do the work. And that ruined at least one relationship that I mean, I say it ruined, but the woman I dated for all of 2007, that was a long-distance relationship. She was from New Jersey, and that wasn't ever going to go real well. And the woman I dated from 2008 to 2009, mid-2010, we both had work to do, and we're still friends, and it wasn't time for either of us. But when I split with the woman in 2007, I realized I had too much work still to do to dive into a relationship. And so I went looking for a way to do the work. And I discovered a workbook called 10 Days to Self-Esteem. And it's a course in, I'm going to open my water just a second. It's a course, in cognitive behavioral therapy, which identifies, it's about 10 major logical twists in thinking. Things like magnification and black and white thinking. If you've ever heard me say the choice is almost never binary, that's where it comes from. And anytime I'm faced with you do this or you do this, because of that workbook, 10 Days of Self-Esteem, I look for other options. It's usually not one choice or the other. It's usually there's usually other options that are better than either the black or the white that you've been considering. And often those other options can meet everybody's needs. When I was growing up, my mother hated the idea of compromise, because in the idea of a compromise, everybody loses. Nobody gets what they want because everybody compromises. And while that's fair reasoning, I've come to think of compromise as the process of looking for solution C. When your options are black and white, when your options are A and B, I look for C. And it's the option that will make everybody happy and meet everybody's needs. And that's hard sometimes. And sometimes you can't get there. But if you aim high, you can come close, even if you don't get there. My anxiety comes from perfectionism a lot of the time, by the way, and I'll probably come back to that. If I don't get to it today, it'll probably find its way into another video. But I did 10 days of self-esteem, identified lots of logical twists in my thinking, and 10 days of self-esteem is written by a Dr. Burns. I want to say it's David Burns. I always think it's Ken Burns, but it's not. That's a documentarian. But it's the guy who also wrote the Feeling Good Handbook, which is more of a read than a workbook, but it helps you get through 10 days of self-esteem. And I'm afraid that title is a stigma, because that's one of the things that kept me from doing it, is accepting that I had a self-esteem problem in early 2006. Coincidentally, that's why the psychiatrist agreed to clear me from the hospital, because I had a workshop where they defined self-esteem as you build self-esteem when your actions are in line with your beliefs, and you damage self-esteem when your actions contradict your beliefs. And my belief was in my core belief was in my independence. And so I pointed out to the psych that by being in the hospital, I was damaging my self-esteem, because they measure your calories and they check on you all the time, and they schedule your day, and you have workshops, groups you have to attend. And I was like, by structuring it like that, by taking away my freedom and my independence, it hurts me. So we adjusted the treatment plan, and I was cleared to go home. 10 days of self-esteem is part of it. Feeling Good Handbook's part of it. I also am a firm believer in The Secret and the law of attraction, and I haven't gone into the stuff beyond that, but I've read The Secret and I believe in it. Which is where I lose some people. The Secret is not incongruent with belief in God. And there are pieces of The Secret where they go, yeah, we're saying the same thing, just in a different language. Prayer is very similar to the way The Secret prescribes expressing the law of attraction. Focus expressing your desires in positives, things that you do want, because the universe does not understand the word don't. It doesn't understand not. So if I pray not for something to happen to me, or if I send out that vibration, then what the universe hears is that thing. And so you get it by focusing on its negative. You can't focus on, I don't want this kind of person in my life. You can only focus on, I do want this kind of person in my life. For example, I've found that it works. Sometimes in unusual monkey's paw-like ways, but it works. And The Secret, if nothing else, helped me figure out how to realign my thinking, so I was focusing on the things I wanted and not on the things I didn't want. It's still a struggle, because I have a lot of hypercritical in my blood. A lot of my anxiety is built from perfectionism, which roots itself in childhood. Because of my pursuit of goals and focusing on excellence, like in improv, I've sacrificed personal relationships and feel good, touchy-feely, fuzzy relationship community. I'm not good at that. What I'm good at is making the work better. And so I push myself And some people would argue, yeah, you make the work better by building the relationship, and it's a valid way to approach it, I get it. But I work on the technical end of things, and I always have. This is how the work is done, and here's the places I think I can improve the work, whether it's in myself or in a group that I'm coaching or directing. And so coming off that perfectionism, that's an anxiety struggle for me. Accepting things are enough. And that putting out the best you got is enough. You have to be satisfied and content with what you can do while still pushing the boundaries for something better. Especially if you're going to charge people money for it. Because if you're performing and you expect there to be a value to it, I think you have to care about how good it is, and you have to be putting your best foot forward each and every night so that your audience feels like they got their money's worth, whether you're charging $5 or $25 or $50. Because if I've been charged $50 and I'm watching people who don't care about how good they are and don't seem to be pushing for excellence, that stresses me out and it frustrates me. I always want my work to be more value than I asked for. I want to charge $10. I'd charge $5. I wouldn't charge anything if it was possible. I mean, places ahead in this trip, I know there'll be workshops and performances and stuff, and I expect no money for any of it. I just want to do it. I like sharing what I know with people and offering the skill set I have. And going, look, I know this format. Would you like me to show it to you? And then sometimes I'll give notes until people get frustrated because you have to make those all work. But I'm working on it. That's my anxiety. The other book I want to throw into that mix is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I always forget. There's one, no matter how often I recite the Four Agreements, there's always one of them I forget. Okay? Be impeccable with your word, I'm good with. It's never been a problem for me. Always do your best. Yeah. And that can be taken to extreme and can be a problem. I remember all four of them. That's bizarre. I never remember all four of them. And now that I'm cutting a video on it, I remember all four of them. Don't assume and don't take anything personally. Everybody's living their own version of the dream. And when I say the dream, it's reference to whatever reality is, because it can be described as you're living your own dream. This is your version of reality. And everybody has their own perspective on reality, which is why two people can see the same thing and come up with two completely different takeaways. And that's the definition of art. And more it's the definition of science. We'll get into that at another time. I'm much better at don't take anything personally. There are people in my life and things that have happened that outsiders look at and go, aren't you pissed at those people? I'm like, no. That's their version of the dream. That's their truth. They're living their truth. And I wish I could make it better for them. I wish they could just go be happy in what they've found otherwise. But there's no point in my taking it personally. And maybe that blends into New Testament and forgiveness and that kind of thing. I think we're all trying to do, none of us gets out of this alive. And we're all trying to do the best we can with what we've got. And we're trying to make this trip through reality the best we can make it. Some have faith that this is all a test, and if that's what gets them through life, more power to them. Please remember that Your ability to swing ends at my nose. And so whatever it takes for you to get through life, you don't get to impress on me. You don't get to force me to live your way or accept your version of life as the correct way to do it. And that, to me, is what the beauty of America is supposed to be about. We all have the freedom to do it the way we think it should be done, and to get through life the way we think we need to get through life, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. I don't smoke pot, not really. I've done it twice, both under Alex's supervision, and they didn't do anything for me at the time. So it's not how I get through life, but there are other people that's really an instrumental piece of how they live. And so Kern County, the place where I live and started this journey from, they will not approve pot shops within the area. I mean, it's a big struggle. It has been. I don't know where it is right now. I could be totally wrong. But it's something you can tax and make a whole lot of people happier, put more money into the city's coffers, and let people get through life the way that they think they should. And alcohol's worse. Alcohol's way worse. Alcohol kills a lot more people than pot does. So who am I to tell anybody else you can't do pot? That's what and that applies to a whole lot of things. If you take it to excess and you're hurting yourself, well, that's your business. If you're taking it to excess, hurting yourself, and then that translates into hurting other people, which is the soul of addiction, and the opposite of addiction is connection, not sobriety. Because the addicts I've encountered have trouble connecting to the people around them because they see them as resources and they use them to feed their addiction. That's where your choices impinge on my freedoms. So I'm all in favor of you do what you need to do to get through this life. To manage your anxiety. And so I'm going to close it out by coming back to 10 Days of Self-Esteem, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, the Feeling Good Handbook. Both of those alone will help you identify places in your thinking that you're hurting yourself. Because we're all our own worst enemy. We really are. I'm still my own worst enemy. Regardless of what else is out there, I'm enjoying this beautiful trip that's helping me with a whole lot of things, but it's still the demon in my head going, and it makes no sense taken objectively. You can't do stand-up, you won't be funny. Yeah, that's in my head. Makes me go, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, 10 Days of Self-Esteem, Feeling Good Handbook. Read The Secret. If you're skeptical about The Secret, watch. I think the movie might even still be on Netflix. It's like a 90-minute movie. I used to use it in class to help kids set goals. I don't care if you buy into The Secret. I'm not preaching. It's not a religion. I don't care if you buy into it. But the goal-setting structure is very helpful. So watch it. And if you don't buy it, don't read it. But if you like the movie, go get the book, read the book. There's other literature, I haven't read it, but there's other books out there on the topic. And then Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. I know a lot of people that swear by that book. I'm not good at not taking things personally, but I'm getting better at it. I'm not good at not assuming. I'm terrible at that one. Because I test with a touch of paranoia. And maybe we'll talk about that in the future, because I know I also want to talk about codependency and get back into addiction a little bit more as we continue on this trip. But those are the resources that helped me, along with being open to, when I say the universe to be secular, I suppose, it's the way I connect with it best, because I like all sorts of physics. I like dark matter, and I like alternate time lines, and I like string theory, and I'm fascinated by quantum reality, which is one of my hooks into